Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Tenenty. I'm coming to you today from the AMAC Foundation, the Foundation Veteran Outreach Program. Our program exists to connect veterans who need resources with resources that we have available in a wide group of collaborators. Uh, I invite your participation with the FVOP, and today I want to introduce Michael Carmichael from CheckAVet, an organization that focuses on preventing veteran suicide. Michael, would you like to talk about CheckAVet?
Thanks for having me, Mike. It's an amazing opportunity to be on your program. A little bit about myself. I'm a retired 26-year Army veteran, and I started CheckAVet going on 3.5 years ago. What we have to do is we have to build a base of support around our veterans. Without that, we see how bad veteran suicide is today. And for those in the know, and I say that for those who are passionate enough to be researching and looking at the data. According to Operation Deep Dive, veteran suicide is over 321,000, and that's about 44 veterans per day. Obviously not the 22 a day we're used to hearing, but it is backed up by science, data, and analysis. So that's who I am, that's what we're doing, and that's a little bit how we're doing it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Michael. Having been a member of the Foundation Veteran Outreach Program for some time with your program, I wonder if you can share a successful collaboration or a successful outcome that's come from collaborating with the Foundation Veteran Outreach Program.
I tell you, Mike, I was so happy to be involved in the FVOP. I had done a podcast with AMAC's president and CEO a year and a half ago, and she reached out and asked if I would become a part of the organization, and happy to collaborate, only wanting to help and trying to be value added. I jumped at the chance. The first couple meetings, I wasn't really sure what to expect or frankly, even why I was there. But then as I kept, as I stuck to it, it was the third meeting where we started talking about grant opportunities, lobbies in front of Congress, how we can collaborate to change policy at the federal level and have more of an impact on what we're doing. We've got to collaborate now with, the NCOA, the Non-Commissioned Officer Association of America. That's an organization with about 30 million veterans and active duty service members. So it's incredible the opportunities that the FVOP has put in front of CheckAVet and myself. And as I continue to find new and exciting ways to not only prevent veteran suicide, but just provide uplifting activities and, so-called treatments, things that make us feel better and do better day to day. I'm always anxious to share them with the FVOP because I know that they're going to be value added in the collaboration to help out veterans across the U.S.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. Now, you have done so much work on this critical problem of preventing veteran suicide. I'm familiar with your work. You've looked at legislation. You've looked at programs. Your website actually describes some areas to identify when veteran suicide might be a future outcome for somebody. I wonder if you might talk through some of those things with us.
That's really where we apply the science. Okay. I can tell a couple of people that walk by the CheckAVet booth while we're at these big venues. One is mental health care professionals, and two, it's veterans or people in distress. Now, talking about the mental health care professionals, Mike, the reason why I can tell who they are is because they see their model in our approach. We use medical doctrine and mental health doctrine to prevent veteran suicide. It's not a single dimensional thing like great suicide protective factors are service animals, equine therapy, help with addiction and all those things. But you have to see those as a very unifocal approach to protecting against suicide. What CheckAVet tries to do is provide a comprehensive model of suicide prevention, and that incorporates a lot of things. But up front, what I love to tell people is you have to pay attention. You have to have a front row seat to your veterans. Fill in the blank. You have to have a front row seat to your people. This is not just about veterans. This is loving your neighbor stuff. So once you do establish a relationship and you do have that front row seat, it's important to start to kind of look into that veteran's life and look for suicide risk factors. Now, at checkavet.org, I think there's like 40 some different suicide risk factors. But what I try to get people to pay attention of are what I call the big four. These are, I would call them red lights on the dashboard, not the yellow ones. So these are like pull over and stop when you see these. When you see people going through, 1, serious relationship problems, 2, financial problems, 3, medical problems, and then lastly, legal problems. Oftentimes, it's not just one of these risk factors or, influencers on somebody that can lead somebody down the path to suicide. But these things happen, multiple things at a single time. For instance, if an older veteran loses a spouse, well, then that's going to reflect in their relationship. It's probably going to affect in their financial and also their individual health because they no longer have that person to help them out. So if we think about risk factors, there's a lot of things, and I'll talk about some of the other big ones, but really pay attention when we see our veterans and our friends and neighbors struggling with those big four. But also we have things like a family history of suicide. That family history of suicide, it's tragic that if somebody in your circle ends their life by suicide, the data will show that you become 5 times more likely to follow that example. 5 times more likely. And as I engage veterans who are in distress, that's one of the last things. It's almost like a parting shot that I like to have for them. And that is, hey, do you want your kids to go through this? Do you want your friends and family to be 5 times more at risk to do this? No, of course we don't. So other things, another kind of unique thing that we see in the military or as veterans is clusters of suicide. And it's kind of like they're leading the way in a bad, in a bad circumstance. So one will do it and then somebody else will do it. And then all of a sudden it seems like everybody starts to follow the lead in that tragic way. And then you have this cluster of suicides. There's some veteran specific risk factors as well that really play into veteran suicide in a completely different way. I think that the hardest one is the transition related challenges. So as we separate either by retirement or end of service, your term's up, you've just spent a period of time being the primary breadwinner or at least a breadwinner in the family. Which comes with a lot of responsibility. Also, you're probably providing medical health care for your family. But flip the switch. What happens as you get out? Man, that is one of the most stressful periods. I know it was for me in my entire life. And as I see people suffer the most, normally it's as a result of these transitional related challenges. And the worst thing is pay. And I say that because, the VA and the Department of Defense are very upfront with you as you transition. And they tell you, you will go through a period of time where pay will be a problem. We don't know exactly how long it will take to get your pay fixed. And we don't know when your first retirement check will be. Well, guess what? That happened to a very dear friend of mine. And that stress after 4 months of not being paid. 4 months. He was so down on himself and he felt so poorly about himself that this guy literally ended up in a field with a can of gas and a lighter. How tragic is that? Another piece of legislation that Checkavet would love to collaborate on would be a law that requires the DOD and the VA to do a handshake 6 months before, veterans even get out. That way, the financial transition doesn't have to be so stressful. So I think that transition related challenges are, some of the hardest ones to overcome because us and the circle of people around us are not in control of anything. But then you also have the things that you hear in the news all the time. PTSD, a lot of specific or unique challenges with PTSD, traumatic brain injury. And believe it or not, in this day and age, sexual trauma in the military has always been a problem. Historically, it's been women being molested or being raped by men. Now we're seeing more and more assaults man on man, and it's terrible because men are so less likely to report a sexual violation. So they end up carrying that around. And then the other side of the coin is the people who are conducting, the assaults will continue to do that. I hope I've answered your question with a few good examples of some of the risk factors that we can look for as we work together to try to prevent veteran suicide.
Indeed. Thank you, Michael. That was a comprehensive answer, and I appreciate it very much. And in full disclosure, my own transition from the military wasn't how do we want to address it smooth. It's very common for that transition to be hard for everyone who's leaving the structure they knew for the unstructure that they don't know. Other things that you mentioned was legislation, and one of the FVOP collaborators is AMAC Action. They take political action. They look at policy and legislation and try to bring veteran voices to changes in those policies. I'm sure they'll be happy to work with you in the future as well as part of the collaboration. So I would ask, what is something going forward that you and I and every person listening can do? How can we take action personally in preventing veteran suicide?
Great question, Mike. And really, that's where the rubber's meeting the road. We need to be involved in our veterans' lives. We need to be involved in each other's lives. If you don't have a front row seat to that person, then you're not going to see it coming. It was very important from the beginning that the Check-A-Vet develops some engagement strategies. We want people to want to be involved in their veterans' lives. But for instance, let's say that you've had a neighbor for 10 years who's a veteran. You know he's a veteran because of his license plate, but you might not know his name, or you might not know what he does or much about him other than he's your neighbor. So what we can do is use these engagement strategies. I'm not going to say they're tricks, but they're definitely techniques to engage somebody who's already in our life to let them know, hey, I appreciate you. I'm interested in your service, and I care for you and your well-being. Currently, Check-A-Vet is collaborating with the Imperial College of London. Yep, that's right. That's the one in England. They got veterans over there too, and they love the idea of developing these engagement strategies. So you can find some good engagement strategies at checkavet.org. It starts there, and then as we build a meaningful and routine relationship with our veterans, it has to be just that. What's the goal? We need to build a base of support around our veterans when they're struggling with their meds, when they're struggling with their finances, when they're struggling with life in general. It's going to help to have somebody there to listen. It's going to help to have somebody there, hopefully they're looking at checkavet.org and getting ideas. But for instance, if you have a veteran struggling with money that doesn't know they're entitled to benefits from the VA benefit program, disabilities and like that, that's a really simple thing that anybody can do to help out a veteran by just knowing you can go to the local VFW and American Legion, even if your veteran's not a member of either one. They have people there. They're called veteran support officers. Okay. So by being in their life, by being meaningfully and routinely aware of what's going on, if you see them struggling and think that they might be entitled to some benefits that they're currently not receiving, reach out to the local American Legion or the VFW. And the VA also has amazing veteran support officers. So, these are just a couple of the ways that I like to share with people how to help our veterans
Michael, thank you for that fantastic summary of things that we can practically do when we know that a veteran's in need. Uh, as you know, though, sometimes that need is a little closer to the boat than we'd like. Someone's in crisis already, and I just want to get your thoughts on that about what we could do.
Mike, that is something that we all need to know because so many of us inadvertently come across that. So up front, you need to talk about the safety issues. Okay. If your veteran is in crisis, but has a gun or is creating a dangerous environment for himself or potentially others, you have to distance yourself from that environment because maybe you become the victim. Two, as you see this situation develop, it's important that we do call 911 as soon as possible so that help is on the way. It's important, if it's a safe enough environment, you want to get a little background on if the veteran has already taken pills or has done anything else that is going to do imminent harm to him. And as we come across veterans who are, in severe emotional distress that are actively showing the warning signs for suicide, you can reach out to veteran crisis lines. Nationally, we just went live with the 988 veteran, or 988 is just a suicide crisis line. Press 1 is for veterans. But another thing that CheckAvet loves to do is offer VA alternatives to the same thing. So there's an amazing crisis line for veterans from a nonprofit called Lifeline for Vets. And if I could share that number, it's pretty easy to remember, 888-777-4443. And that's a line that's actually manned by veterans. And it doesn't matter if you're in crisis, you need help with your benefits, or actually, if you just need somebody to talk to, these are great resources to reach out to. What I like to call the recipe to the chili, if people want to have one thing that they can use to see suicide coming or to help prevent it if they're catching it in the act, if you go to our landing page, we just put on a free tool. It's a 6-page handout. And when you're trying to figure out how serious this attempt is, CheckAvet actually uses the same tool, which is called the Columbia 9, and it's on the information that we pass out. And it's a way to assess the suicidality of a situation. Is this somebody who's just got an idea, or is this somebody who has an idea and a plan, or a plan that's resourced, or somebody who's actually ready to do it? So if we have this tool and we understand how to use the Columbia 9, then those are some amazing things so that you, as a friend, a relative, or somebody who just walks in on this tragic event in progress, these are some things that you can have at your disposal so that you can make a difference in protecting that life. As we deal with somebody who's in crisis, the most important thing, and it's the second step in the assessment, is you have to ask the hard question. And don't ask it in a strange negative context. Be direct. Are you going to hurt yourself? Do you have plans to hurt yourself? From my experience, when I go through that with veterans, it's almost a relief when that veteran tells you what they're going through. Even if they tell you, yes, I plan on hurting myself. Normally it's followed up with, I don't know why, but that's how I feel. So it's so important up front as we're assessing the situation and getting some of the background story. Ask the hard question, are you going to hurt yourself? So it's so important, and that can be a great tool as you assess the situation and the danger of somebody's suicidality.
Thank you, Michael. We appreciate those insights. I'd like everyone to know where to be able to find you and your program.
To reach out to CheckAvet, you can hit us up across any of our social medias. We have Facebook, Insta, and TikTok. Our handle is CheckAvet365. On there you can directly engage us, give us your questions and the likes. We've also stood up a program called CheckAvet Safe House. And what that is an online community. And I would love for people with veterans in their lives to go. You have to ask for permission to be a part of the group, but that is a place where we can help the helpers help our veterans. So you can also go to Check a Vet 365 Safe House. Our website is checkavet.org. If you want to email us, you can email us at info@checkavet.org. However you reach out to contact us, please know this. We need your help in this mission. The money's not for us. All of the money is going towards us helping veterans and us helping to build a base of support around our veterans. Go to checkavet.org. Look at how we're doing it. Believe in us. Look at our team of amazing people. Make that contribution so that we can turn up the volume knob on our mission. That's directly influenced by the resources that we have. So please, please, please go to checkavet.org and make a monthly donation to help us to continue to help you.
Michael, thank you for that contact information. And for our listeners, I'd also like you to know how to contact AMAC Foundation Veteran Outreach Program. You can email us at veteranoutreach@amacfoundation.org. Thank you for listening and have a great day.